The Batman Arkham games, the thing that really got this channel and the main channel going in the first place, right? That was how I kind of started up this account as a Batman Arkham channel. And the thing is, these games hold a very special place in my heart. It's very much a lot of it nostalgia based, I guess you could say. These games came out around the time that I was a kid, and these games really got me into Batman in the first place. And I want to go through this a little bit about why the Batman Arkham games hold a special place in my heart to this very day, because there are so many good things I could say on this. I could talk about this game all day if you really gave me like a solid platform to do that, right? I mean, these games are just amazing from start to finish, everything from top to bottom. I remember Batman Arkham City was my first Batman Arkham game, and I'm going to do a little story time here. I saw one of my favorite YouTubers at the time playing it. I'm like, wow, this looks really, really cool. And I knew him through his other content. It was like EA Sports type of games and stuff. And he played through Batman Arkham City, and I'm like, this is really cool. I want to get this game. So I remember getting the game, playing it, and I found it really frustrating at first. And then as you get into it more, it was just awesome. And then Batman Arkham Origins came out, Batman Arkham Knight. I played Batman Arkham Asylum, and the rest was history. I mean, this game franchise, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrated ones. I genuinely do not see a lot of people give this game its flowers. Like, if you ever like see like those TikToks or those videos of people rating like the best combat in games, or you see people talk about just the best story mode games, the Batman Arkham games I really don't see on a whole lot of lists, and it's really unfortunate because these games, in my opinion, have some of the best combat ever. I don't think I've played a game with better, more smooth combat than Batman Arkham Knight. There is not another game I've played. Like, I remember I played some God of War. I'm like, the combat really isn't as good. You play like Red Dead Redemption 2. You can play like The Last of Us. None of these games have the combat of what the Batman Arkham games have. Assassin's Creed, even, like, that's a game franchise I've been getting into recently as well. That combat is not as good as Batman Arkham combat. Nothing really is. But enough jibber jabber. I want to go into this. I have a few things I want to talk about as to why the Batman Arkham games are so special. And if you guys enjoy this video, or if you just agree with what I'm about to say, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. And let's get right into this. So starting out, like I mentioned before, the childhood nostalgia, man. This game brings back a lot of great memories. And this is the sort of thing this is why a lot of people would have Batman Arkham Asylum on the top of their lists. It's mostly due to nostalgia bias, right? Even though Arkham Asylum is objectively the worst game of the bunch, I try not to let my emotions get too involved in my opinions. It is still a very good game, but the nostalgia is just what makes it so good. And it makes you keep coming back to it because everything about about the Arkham games, is so good, right? And then you throw nostalgia on top of it, right? Each and every game has an amazing story, really good protagonists, obviously, in Batman, amazing antagonists that are quite unique in comparison to other franchises. Like, yes, every franchise in a way has some sort of unique antagonist in some way, but Batman really tops it off when you got guys like the Joker walking around. Name me another franchise where a main antagonist is like the Joker? There really isn't a lot of them. Like, who else is like Two-Face? Who else is like the little midget the Penguin? You know what I mean? Like, there's not a whole lot like Batman supervillains. And when you go into other supervillains, right? And you look at other superheroes and their villains and stuff, the only one, in my opinion, that's like, these are kind of cool is Spider-Man. The rest of the superheroes I honestly don't really care about all that much. I know next to nothing about other superheroes because Batman and Spider-Man are the only ones that have really, really solid games, and the Spider-Man games were built off of the Batman games. And in my opinion, the combat in Batman is much better than the combat in Spider-Man in specific aspects, but that's a different discussion for a different day. If you guys want me to do a, Batman Arkham versus Marvel Spider-Man combat video, let me know down in the comments below, but I can promise you it's probably going to be a little bit biased. But getting back into the discussion here, like, these games got me into Batman in the first place. Like I mentioned earlier about my favorite YouTuber at the time who was playing through Batman Arkham City, and it was just such an amazing atmosphere, right? And Batman Arkham City is looked at as one of the best, if not the best, Batman Arkham game. I think, in my opinion, it's got to be number 1 or number 2 for me, but it is an amazing Batman experience. And you know what the Arkham games do really, really well as well? Because sometimes you might play games where, I've noticed this, whenever I play like a new game, sometimes the stories can be a little bit overcomplicated to where I don't fully understand what's going on. Like, for instance, if I play like a fantasy genre style game where I don't understand a lot when it comes to, fictional creatures, you talk ogres, you talk witches, you talk dragons, whatever it is, that stuff confuses me because the plotline in those games, generally speaking, I find to be overcomplicated and overly confusing. Whereas the Batman Arkham games, it's pretty simple with straight up what's going on. Bad guy, you try to catch bad guy. And some people like to kind of overly dumb that down and try to make it seem like that, oh, it's too simple, so therefore it's not a lot of fun. Well, that's not always true. The Joker can make the most simple story super fun. That's what Batman Arkham Asylum literally is. It's such a basic Batman and Joker story, but it was ran so well, and you were able to keep up with the concept really well that Joker is trying to get the Titan formula to create an army. It's very basic, but it works, and it was an amazing first game, right? The second game, there's Protocol 10. We're trying to figure out what that is. We don't know what Protocol 10 is. Meanwhile, the Joker's poisoned us with his blood, so we need to, get a cure for said blood issue. Then we can stop Hugo Strange. It's a very simple plotline, but it works, right? And I can go through the entire plotline, and yes, you can technically dumb down any story and simple it down to make it seem like it's a bad thing or it's a lot worse than it really is. But in my opinion, simple does mean better because you want to be able to understand what you're playing, right? And Batman really did keep it basic. And not only that, there is one positive to not going super deep on the Batman Rogues Gallery, and that's to not overcomplicate the matters, right? Like, you know exactly what kind of villains you're going to get when you deal with the Joker, with the Penguin, with the Two-Face, right? You got Poison Ivy, you got Scarecrow, you got a bunch, or I shouldn't say a bunch, but you have a good amount of villains, right? Bane, for instance, as well. You have a good amount of supervillains, but not so many to the point where it's kind of just overcomplicated. And I think that's a great thing that the Batman Arkham games did. I really hope we get new Batman games in the future. I don't care if it's Arkham. I don't care if it's not Arkham. I would prefer to start a new storyline, but if it is a new Arkham game, that would be amazing as well. But like I mentioned before as well, the combat, man. The combat still holds up well today. Even the graphics still hold up well today, right? The free flow combat system, I don't know if it was invented by the Batman Arkham games, but it definitely revolutionized how well it could be done, right? Batman Arkham Asylum was made in 2009, okay? I'm going to let you kind of process that information for a second. It was made back in 2009, right? That is almost 17 years ago. I think it came out August of 2009. So almost 17 years ago this game came out. Yes, you are very old. You are currently aging as we speak. You've hit Unk status, right? You've hit Unk status at this point. It's just a fact you're going to have to deal with it. But Batman Arkham Asylum kind of really revolutionized the free flow combat system that Batman Arkham City borderline mastered. Batman Arkham Origins kind of took a slight step back. It kind of felt a little bit more clunky, but then Batman Arkham Knight really mastered the free flow combat, and that game is almost 11 years old, and the graphics still hold up beautifully, the world design still holds up beautifully, the free flow combat holds up beautifully, and you want to know one thing that the Batman Arkham games do better than any game I've ever played ever, right? Not just the free flow combat, right? That is the best in my opinion, but there is something else to consider as well that's essentially another form of combat. That is stealth. Name another game to me where stealth matters more than the Batman Arkham games. Assassin's Creed doesn't do that. Stealth doesn't really mean anything. You can just find yourself in a melee combat type situation and be perfectly fine and get out of it. Spider-Man, the stealth was absolutely atrocious in that game. Again, there's not really much incentivization because you're able to avoid bullets. You're literally able to avoid bullets. In Batman Arkham, if armed thugs see you, you're getting pinged immediately unless you're able to drop a smoke pellet and get out of there. But you only get one per room, right? Per armed thug room, I guess you would call it. So it's not like you have unlimited cheat codes and cop-outs. And yes, there are certain things that you can do to really speed up the process. Like you can backclaw enemies over the ledges or whatever. But when you're playing that for the first time, you're not going to know that, right? When you're playing through Batman Arkham Asylum, by the way, for me, has the hardest stealth because Batman himself is A, he's not so overpowered, and B, you don't have the same amount of gadgets as you do in the later games. And also, I find the AI to be a lot more unpredictable in Batman Arkham Asylum. I think they're a lot more predictable in Arkham City and Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight. It's a little bit more predictable, their movement. But I think that the stealth, it's really high risk, high reward. Like, you are in a lot more danger in those stealth room sections compared to when you're playing other games, right? It's just a fact. Like, the stealth is the best I've ever seen. And if there's another game that you think rivals it, you're wrong. Because there's not another game that rivals it. It's just so good, man. I'm just glazing at this point. But, even the stories by today's standards are intriguing. And I wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit. That, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I feel like games today, and this is gonna make me sound so old when I say this out loud. I'm only 23, by the way. I'm not even Unk status yet. But I feel like games today are written so poorly in comparison to games that we were getting 10 years ago. Now, you could say nostalgia, but the fact I'm still able to play these games now, I think kind of tells you that they were even enjoyable still by today's standards, right? Because I think there was a time where writers genuinely cared about what they were writing, what they were producing, what they were putting out. And then gaming really started to hit mainstream, right? And around, 2016 was around the time that gaming really started to hit the mainstream media and everything. So it kind of became a lot more about maximizing profits, right? Because we are getting a lot more gamers playing nowadays. So we want to be able to sell these games, have them fly off the shelves as quickly as possible. And by that, it's a lot of massive maps, really good marketing, good graphical design, but the writing in games is what feels like it's lacking in a lot of games today. And I'm not saying there aren't any good games that are coming out, but let's be honest, a lot of games now are literally just designed. I understand games are made to make money, but it seems like games are more focused on things like microtransactions and such, as opposed to actually good story writing. But the Batman Arkham games really did an amazing job. Like, there was not one story in the Batman Arkham franchise I'd categorize as straight up bad, right? Batman Arkham Knights was a little bit weaker, but that was also at the point where gaming was about to kind of turn into that mainstream time, 2015-ish. Like, it was about to kind of turn mainstream. It was more about the graphical design, like I mentioned before. But games that were made previously, Batman Arkham Origins has the best story in the franchise for me. Batman Arkham City, a good story, but I would say Origins was better. Batman Arkham Asylum, a good basic storyline. Even Shadows was a really good storyline, right? And that's because a VR game is not as mainstream, so you really have to depend on really solid writing capabilities. And I think that the writing was just top notch, that we unfortunately just don't get nearly as much of today. And it's just an unfortunate thing. But another thing that this game did well, on top of everything else that I've glazed in this video, was the bosses, right? Now, of course, every single game franchise is going to have, like, a bad boss sometimes, and that's perfectly okay. Like, Batman Arkham Knight did not have great bosses, right? But then you get games like Batman Arkham City with the Mr. Freeze and the Ra's al Ghul boss battles. You get Batman Arkham Origins with, like, Killer Croc, Deadshot, Deathstroke, right? Even Shiva's was pretty good. Bane's were amazing. And so those games had really good bosses, and Batman Arkham Asylum tried to have bosses. They weren't great, but it was better than nothing at all, right? Of course, it had the best boss battle, Titan Joker. Of course, I'm joking. Please don't, decapitate me down in the comments. But guys, I came on here today to just absolutely glaze the Batman Arkham games, because they are truly amazing. And let me know if you guys agree or disagree down in the comments below, and let me know what you guys want to see next. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace!